Today we continue reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam. So we're reading from Canto number 1, chapter number 9, entitled Passing Away of Bhisma Dev. And today we're reading from text number 25. So if you can repeat after me. Sutta uvacha Yudhishthirastada karnya Shayanam Sarapanjare Aprechad Vividhan Dharma Rishinam Chanushrinvata. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishma Dev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. Purport. Bhishma Dev, speaking in that appealing tone, convinced Maharaj Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away. And Maharaj Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. Lord Sri Krishna inspired Maharaj Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Dev in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee like Bhishma Dev, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. Another point is that Bhishma Dev at the time was not only lying on a deathbed of arrows, but was greatly aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at that time, but Lord Sri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus in any circumstance a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Yudhishthira also preferred to solve his problematic questions by asking Bhishma Dev rather than ask anyone else present there who was seemingly more learned than Bhishma Dev. This is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier, Lord Sri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotee. The father likes to see the son become more famous than himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotees is more valuable than worship of the Lord himself. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So with your permission and blessings, I'll try to share some thoughts. We are reading Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter number 9, the passing away of Bhishma Dev. This section of the Bhagavatam is very interesting because everyone's leaving the world. Krishna is leaving. Bhishma Dev is leaving. Later on, the Pandavas decide they want to leave. Draupadi, Subhadra, they decide they're going to leave. Even Dhritarashtra, I mean, if there was the last person who wanted to leave, the last person who wanted to hang on to everything, it was Dhritarashtra, and even he decided, I'm going to leave as well. Everyone's leaving. So sometimes they say that the Ramayana tells you how to lead, because Ram is a great example. The Mahabharata teaches you how to live, because it's full of ethical dilemmas, how to make these decisions in this world. But the Bhagavatam teaches you how to leave. Yeah, it teaches you how to leave this world, because ultimately that's the most important thing. Years ago we used to have this, not years ago, even still, we have this course called Explore. And on the poster they put a quote by Mark Twain. And you know what the quote is? The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you die. No. The day you find out why. And I always used to have a debate with the devotees. I was like, this is not our philosophy. Is it? Are those the two most important days in your life? The day you're born and the day you find out why? We would probably say the two most important days are the day you find out why and the day you die. Because the day you die, ante kale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Because at the antakale, at the last moment, whatever you leave this world remembering, that you become. So you need to understand how to leave this world. Therefore, the Shastra shows so many examples of how the devotees leave this world in perfect consciousness. Practically no one in this world knows how to die. No one knows in this world how to die because they are just trying to avoid it. It's an inconvenient truth. When there are old people, quick, put them in an old people's home. We don't want to see it. When there's a dead body, quick, cover it up in a body bag so no one sees it. We don't want to see death. In India, death is open. You have an open pyre funeral. Have you ever seen an open pyre funeral? Once I was in Jagannath Puri, and it was early morning, 2 a.m., and I was trying to get to Jagannath Temple. So I was walking, and then it was very dark, there was no light. So then I saw some men around a fire, like heating up their hands. So then I just walked in that direction, because then I could ask them. And as I got to the fire, I looked in, I was like, oh my God! It was like 2 dead corpses in there, burning. And these guys were just like heating up their hands there, you know? It was like, and then I realized I just walked into a cremation ground. Because there's a part of Jagannath Puri called Svarga Dvar. Dvar means the doors and Svarga means heavens. So it said that if anyone gets cremated in that place, then it's like a portal to Svarga. And that's also the place where the demigods come into Puri to have darshan of Jagannath. So basically I walked into a cremation ground. So open pyre funerals, yeah, they don't try to hide it. Yeah, this is death, it's a reality, face it. Even you go to Varanasi, then you'll see the yogis are meditating in front of the open pyre funeral. Why do the yogis put ashes on their body? Because they're reminding themselves, one day I will die. So for most people, they're trying to forget about death. Even Prabhupada said, video it, video my final days. The final lesson. I mean, who takes a video of like their death? Have you ever thought of taking a video? Like, no one does that. But Prabhupada said, no, take a video. They should see, the world should see how we should leave this world. So when you think of Bhisma Dev leaving this world on the bed of arrows, is actually like very, very similar to Srila Prabhupada leaving this world in Vrindavan on his bed in the Krishna Balaram temple. Because Prabhupada is almost like he was just perfectly conscious till the last moment translating Bhagavatam. And Bhisma Dev similarly, he's in perfect consciousness. Prabhupada says, at this time you're not supposed to ask anyone any question. Yeah. But Prabhupada says the pure devotee in any condition, they can just speak the right way of living. It doesn't matter, they overcome the limitations. So here we are, we're learning the final lesson. Bhishma Dev is passing away and Yudhishthira has come to see him. You must be aware of the backstory of how it all happens. But Yudhishthira is basically going through an existential crisis. Because the battle of Kurukshetra has finished. Millions of soldiers have been annihilated. All of his cousins have basically been killed. Even so many soldiers and allies on his side have been killed. Even the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi have been killed. His elders have been killed, Drona. Jai Shri Shri Radhalandan Ishvara ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai. Just think about this for Yudhishthira. He's completely baffled. All his cousins have been killed. All of his allies have been killed. All of his teachers have been killed. The sons of Draupadi have been killed. And you know what the extra bombshell was? He found out later on that Karna, who was also killed, was his brother. He's just getting one bombshell after another. And he's just thinking, what have we just done here? Everyone's been annihilated, so I could be the king. So naturally he's feeling like, I don't want to take the throne. I don't want to do this. This is very, very interesting actually. A devotee always introspects and thinks, what could I have done different? What did I do wrong? It's very interesting when we're in material consciousness, whenever something goes wrong, we're always thinking like, sure, it's that guy's fault, it's this person's fault, you know. But the devotee, the first thing they think is, what could I have done different? How could I have approached the situation differently? It's such a unique characteristic, you know. So Yudhishthira is thinking, I did wrong. I should not have done this. Yudhishthira is thinking, let me just leave now. I should just go to the forest and I should just repent. In fact, Yudhishthira wanted to leave and he wanted to just make Bhima. He said, Bhima, you become the king. Bhima's a heavy guy, you know. I don't know if everyone was ready for Bhima to become the king, you know. Like, Bhima was fierce. Yudhishthira, he was still balanced. So everyone was saying, no, Yudhishthira, you have to do it, you have to do it. So they're all convincing him, no, you rule, you rule. Even Krishna came to him. Krishna said, you have to do it. You have to take the throne. Yudhishthira was still not convinced. So Krishna said, okay, one last thing you do then. Go and see Bhisma Dev. He's the grandsire. He's the grandfather. He's the godfather. If there's one godfather in Mahabharata, is Bhisma Dev. Like, he's the authority. He's an authority in all ways. So Krishna said to Yudhishthira, go and see him. See what he has to say. Hear from him. So Yudhishthira comes there on the battlefield. Bhishma Dev had fell on the 10th day. Remember the story of how Bhishma Dev told Arjuna how he could kill him. Because Bhishma Dev said, I'll never fight a lady. So then who did Arjuna keep next to him? Shikhandi. It was, you know. And then Arjuna just flew all these arrows, just like, he said that there was not space for one pin to go through Bhishma Dev's body because all the arrows had taken up all the space. And Bhishma Dev just went down. And he was just lying there. And then the battle ended and Bhishma Dev was just lying there. So Yudhishthira came. Why was Bhishma Dev lying there? The Mahabharata says Bhishma Dev was waiting for Uttarayana. You understand? Uttarayana means the rising of the sun. When the sun's at a certain point and you leave your body, it's like the best time. There's a time for everything. There's a time to get married. There's a time to eat. There's a time for, you know, Mangalarati, and there's a time to die. So Uttarayana is the time to die. So it said that Bhishma Dev was waiting for Uttarayana, the right time. But actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says Uttarayana means something different. He wasn't waiting for the sun to rise, Uttarayana. Uttarayana means there was a personality who appeared in Uttara's womb. And Bhishma Dev was waiting for that person to appear. And who was the person that appeared in Uttara's womb? Krishna. So Uttarayana doesn't mean he was waiting for the sun to rise. He was waiting for Krishna to appear. Because he wanted to leave the body face to face, seeing Krishna. Who was the other person in Shastra that wanted to leave, who said like, I will not be able to stand it if you live longer than me, and I will, if I live longer than you and I have to see your death, I want to leave my body now and I want to see you when I'm leaving my body. Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur in the same way. So Bhishma Dev was waiting for Krishna. So Yudhishthira and Yudhishthira, all the brothers, everyone arrived there. Krishna arrived there. Bhishma Dev was so happy. He was so happy to see everyone. Someone may say, how did Bhishma Dev, is the most frequently asked question, how did Bhishma Dev end up like this? Bhishma Dev, who's a Mahajan, Bhishma Dev, who knows all the principles of religion, how did he end up on the side of the Kauravas? And the Acharyas say there's an external reason and there's an internal reason. The external reason why Bhishma Dev ended up on the side of the Kauravas and the bed of arrows was because he swore allegiance, isn't it? He swore allegiance to the Kauravas. He said, I will always protect whoever is on the throne. So he made that vow, and we know Bhishma Dev would never go back on his vow. So but that's just the external reason why Bhishma Dev ended up on the side of the Kauravas. What is explained is that the real reason, the transcendental reason, the deeper reason why Bhishma Dev ended up on the side of the Kauravas is because Krishna wanted to show that even if you have a fighter like Bhishma Dev, if he takes the wrong side, if he takes the side of adharma, if he violates principles of religion, then that side will still lose. It doesn't matter how expert, it doesn't matter how amazing you are in this world, it doesn't matter what strategy you create, what resources you have. If you embody adharma, you will lose. There's no doubt about it. And that in itself is a very, very important question. Because in this world, people try to get ahead doing adharmic things. And there may be some temporary, temporary benefit, temporary success. But if you violate dharma, in the end, you will be defeated. Because dharma rakshita rakshita. One who protects dharma, their dharma protects them. So Krishna wanted to show the world that it doesn't matter who you are, if you violate dharma, you will lose. So the Kauravas, they had everything. They had more army, more facility, in one sense, better fighters. I mean, they had Bhishma Dev on their side, Drona. These were the gurus, these were the teachers. But still they lost, because they were on the side of adharma. So Yudhishthira came, and Yudhishthira began asking Bhishma Dev many, many things. Now this conversation between Arjuna and Yudhishthira and Bhishma Dev is the longest part of the Mahabharata. Did you know that? The Mahabharata has 18 books. And the book in which the conversation between Bhishma and Yudhishthira takes place is known as Shanti Parva. And of all the 18 books, the Shanti Parva, or the instructions from Bhishma Dev to Yudhishthira, is the longest part of the Mahabharata. Right? It said, how many minutes did it take for Krishna to speak to Arjuna? Bhagavad Gita?
45.
Yes, they say 45, 46. I never actually read that, but anyway, we'll go with it. How many days did it take for Sukadev to speak to Parikshit?
7.
How many days did it take for Ramananda Rai, or how many nights did it take for Ramananda Rai and Mahaprabhu to have their conversation? 10. How many days did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instruct Rupa Goswami for? 10. How many months did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instruct Sanatana Goswami for? 2. How many days was the conversation between Bhishma Dev and Yudhishthira? Anyone know? 8. Good guess. Different people say different things, but it seems as though it was something like 56 days. 56 days. The instructions from Bhishma Dev to Yudhishthira are about over 300 chapters. Yeah, so many things he talks about. So Bhishma Dev is giving all these instructions to Yudhishthira, explaining what is the duty of a king, and many, many other dharmas of the world, which we'll read about in forthcoming chapters. So you got to understand, Bhishma Dev is on the verge of death. He's about to leave this world. You can't, but the pain, the discomfort, none of that clouds their consciousness. If you want to know where you're really at in your spiritual life, There's 2 times in your life when you can understand where you're really at. Number 1, when you're alone. And number 2, when you're in pain. Outside of that, when you're with others and when times are good, you can put on all kinds of displays of Krishna consciousness. But when you're alone and when you're in pain, what you really are comes out. So in times of pain, you can't, when you're squeezed, when you squeeze an orange, know for sure orange juice will come out. No other, because what's inside will come out. At that time you can't fake it. Right? It was interesting. I was with our Janaki Nath Prabhu when he got cancer, and then finally at one point the doctor, the OT said, you've got 3 months left to live. Anyway, so then he came back to the manor. But he was like, he was inspired to keep giving, to keep preaching, to keep sharing Krishna consciousness. So we would arrange calls where all of his friends could come, and then on Zoom, because it was COVID time. So then he was preaching. And I could see when he was preaching, like, 2 months to live, everyone was like completely attentive. Completely drawn in, completely. And I was speaking to him and I said, wow, it's like you have so much impact on people. You're able to really reach people. And the conclusion, one of the reasons we understood why he was able to reach people is because when someone is dying, you know that whatever they're saying is 100% genuine. Like, you can't fake it at that time. It's like, anyone else, you can think, he's putting on a show. But when someone's dying, it's like every single word is realization, whatever you're saying. So here it was, Bhishma Dev, just pure realization coming out, teaching about so many, many, many things. And here, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that even though there were so many other sages that Yudhishthira could have gone to, they went to Bhishma Dev. That's a very, very significant point. Because this is what the Bhagavatam does again and again and again. What the Bhagavatam does again and again is it shows us that spiritual advancement is not based on any external factor. In fact, all the external things which we think make one person higher than another person mean nothing in comparison to spiritual advancement or realization. So here, technically, we would think the sages are more advanced than a king. Because by Varna, or by ashram, the renunciates are considered higher than those, entangled in worldly life. But the Bhagavatam reverses the hierarchy and says, no, Bhishma Dev may be a king, he may be a fighter, but he's the one to ask, even amongst these renunciates, because he has more spiritual advancement. We may think that men are the natural gurus, right? That's the natural kind of social prevailing order, that men are the gurus. But then what do we do in the Bhagavatam? We have stories where we find that the wives are more advanced, isn't it? The Nagapatnis, or the wives of the proud Vedic Brahmanas. So the Bhagavatam just switches it all up and says it doesn't matter. According to social hierarchy, by gender, by Varna, you may think someone's higher, but it depends on who has realization. Even in terms of Varna, naturally we think Brahmanas are higher than Shudras. But then what happens right at the beginning at Naimisharanya? There's all these Paka Brahmanas in Naimisharanya, all the sages. But when Sutta Goswami appears, who's of a lower birth, they're like, you sit on the Vyasasana, we'll hear from you. He's of Pratiloma birth, that's lower. but they hear from him because he has advancement. Even if you think about age, normally you think old and wise. The older are wiser. We always hear from the seniors. But then who becomes the gurus? Dhruva, Prahlad. What about Chitraketu's son, who comes back to life and instructs Chitraketu? It reverses the hierarchy. It doesn't matter about age. If someone has more realizations, they're higher. What about social position? Sometimes you think naturally someone who's aristocratic, who has culture, they're considered higher, and just the worker, they're considered lower. But then what happens when Jada Bharat carries the palanquin of Rahugana? King Rahugana at one time, he comes off the palanquin and he says, you know what, you have more realized, maybe I should hear from you. Bhagavatam reverses the hierarchy. What about even if you think about demons and demigods? Naturally, demigods are higher, right? Naturally, by hierarchy, demigods are higher. But then what happens? There's a demon that's shown to be higher than a demigod because he has devotion. And who's that? Vitrasura. So at every moment, the Bhagavatam is like counterintuitive. It's switching it up. It's saying that throw out all of your conceptions of who's advanced. It's not about ashram. It's not about gender. It's not about social position. It's not even about age. It's not even about whether you have demigod qualities or demoniac background. Who has love? Who has devotion? Who has knowledge? Who has spiritual realization? They should be the ones that we hear from. Therefore, Yudhishthira is coming to Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev is saying so many things. And here, one of the other points that Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport is that the pain of Bhishma Dev, the pain that he was going through, that did not cloud his consciousness in any way at all. One of the biggest problems in the world today is that people don't know how to deal with pain. People don't know how to deal with setbacks. People don't know how to deal with obstacles that come in their life. We were talking about this yesterday with the devotees, that no educational institution in this world teaches you how to deal with pain. Every educational institution in this world is trying to give you the knowledge by which somehow or other you'll make some arrangement in this world to overcome pain. And that is the most, excuse my French, stupid approach to life. If you think about all the knowledge in the world, basically all the knowledge of the universities in the world is basically teaching you to try and control the world so that you won't have to experience any pain. Make better inventions, earn more money, find new medical insights that give you cures to your diseases, create certain types of infrastructure that block the onslaught of material nature, and when all is said and done, it all fails. It all fails. The whole world is giving you knowledge to try to help you block out pain. But spiritualists come in and say, stop trying to block out pain. It's going to come. That's the nature of life. So therefore, instead of trying to control the outer world, develop your inner world so that you have the resilience, the strength of consciousness to be able to deal with that pain. And so, if you want to know the mantra to overcome and find peace in this world and to overcome pain, the mantra is: number one, adjust your expectation. Number two, accept your situation. And number three, aspire for connection. The first problem in the world is that people have the wrong expectations, that pain will not come. And therefore when pain comes, when difficulty comes, when reversals come, they become completely displaced. So the first thing a devotee does is they adjust their expectations. They know today anything could happen. In one day anything could change. They're ready for that. They don't become surprised when things happen. They're ready. They know this is the way the world goes. This is the way the world is wired. Tomorrow I could wake up and there could be an earthquake in my life. Ready for that. But the second thing is they accept their situation. When it does happen, they realize there's a lesson. There's a lesson which I'm meant to learn in this. They don't look up in the world, in the sky as a victim and say, why is this happening to me? They look up in the sky as a searcher and say, what can I learn from this? And the third thing that a devotee does is they aspire for connection. They realize that all of this is just pushing me to connect to the eternal reality where nothing changes, where everything stays in a steady state. The place where you truly live happily ever after. And so Bhishma Dev is a great example of this. All the great devotees are an example of this, of the art of how to deal with pain, obstacle. Because that science nobody actually understands in the world. And so here, as we're reading of how Yudhishthira approaches Bhishma Dev, there's so many things to learn, so many deep insights. And in the coming verses, we'll start hearing about some of the Dharma that Bhishma Dev starts talking about and how that helps us to live amazing lives. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I have some minutes if anyone has any questions, comments, reflections, anything you want to ask about, I can take. Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for giving us. Towards the start of class, you said how there's a right time for everything, but then towards the end of class, you were saying how the Bhagavatam kind of shows the social order of things being reversed. So what's kind of the fine line between chaos and then the correct traditional order of things, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Okay, all done. Yeah, that's the point I was making, that according to, the Shastra outlines a tradition, or not a tradition, an ideal of how things could go. If you get married at this time, or if you do this at this time, then you'll have more chance of auspiciousness. So there is a natural order of how things go. But what the Bhagavatam also shows is that bhakti is higher than any of those things. So for the purposes of devotion, or in the course of devotional service, if somehow or other that ideal of how things should go in the world is overturned, there's no loss. There's no loss. It doesn't matter. Because the higher principle of those doing things at the right time and there being order. Why do we want order and auspiciousness in our life? Because that's not the end. That's just the means to the end. The idea of having order and auspiciousness in your life is that ultimately it leads you to bhakti. It leads you to love. It leads you to devotion. What's the point in your life if you do all of the things exactly at the right time? Everything is done according to the perfect ritual and the perfect order, but at the end of life, when we breathe our last breath, we can't shed one tear for Krishna of love. Then you have to come back with all the auspicious things you did. Therefore Bhagavatam says, Dharma svanostita pumsham vishvakshena katashuya notpadayed yadi ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. You can follow Dharma perfectly. But if at the end of it you don't develop rati, you don't develop love, attachment, affection, genuine heartfelt connection to the Supreme Lord, shrama eva hi kevalam is all a useless waste of time. So at the end of our life, the perfectness of our life will be measured by how much love we have, because nothing else will really take you to the place you're trying to go to. So yeah, we should try to create order in our lives. We should try to follow. If you're doing something, yeah, you can do the astrology and find a good time to do it. When all is said and done, what will really make that activity successful is if you develop devotion from it. Otherwise, useless waste of time. So yeah, therefore devotees sometimes ask about, should I do my astrology, Prabhu? Well, I tell that joke about one man, there was two ladies in his life. So he went to the astrologer, he said, there's two ladies in my life. I don't know which one I should marry. I don't know which one will be the lucky one. So the astrologer looked into his ball and he said, you'll marry the first one, and the second one will be the lucky one. So we want to figure it all out, you see, you want to figure it all out. There's one book actually a devotee wrote, How to Mess Up Your Life Using Astrology. You can also mess up your life trying to do everything perfectly. What's the perfect time for this? Depend on Krishna. Prabhupada said Krishna can kick out thousands of Rahu planets. Does that mean we don't take advantage of things like astrology? Maybe you can, but remember, that's not the all in all. Krishna Bhakti supersedes everything. So we must keep everything in perspective. Problem is we take things out. Anyway, I'm going on and on about that now. I think. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your class. My question is advancement in spiritual life is measured by the amount of realization that we have?
Is advancement in spiritual life measured by the amount of realization we have? Kaviraj Goswami says, Prema dhana vinavyartha daridra jivan dasa kori vetan mohre deha prema dhan. If I don't have prema, I should be considered a very poor, impoverished soul. The real measure of one's advancement is not position, is not knowledge, is not even insight into the workings of material nature, but it's love. Because prema dhana, if I don't have the wealth of love, daridra jivan, then I'm to be considered an impoverished living being. So yes, we want to have realization. We want to have realization, but then ultimately turn it into prema. So generally, if you have a realization, then it will be it will lead to love, because a realization means you're understanding something on a much deeper level than the intellect. Now that knowledge is moving your heart. That's what a realization means. So generally, if one says, like, I have a realization, Prabhu, I had a realization, and then the next day they sleep in through the morning program, you kind of think like, okay, I don't know how deep did it really go? How deep did it? So we tend to use the word realization quite cheaply. What does Krishna say? Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vijitendriya. One who is become fixed by virtue of acquired and realized knowledge. Triptatma vijitendriya is completely satisfied and has conquered the mind and senses. That's a realization. You can't have a realization and then just like overeat and have like 10 cups of sweet rice because you're feeling a bit down that day, you know. Like, no. So love. How much love do we have? At the end of this life, you can't take your beads with you, but you can take how much taste you have for the holy name. At the end of this life, you can't take your bookshelf with you, but you can take how much genuine realization of that knowledge is in your heart. At the end of this life, you can't take any position with you, but you can take your service attitude with you. So it has to go internal. Movement of the heart. We're a movement of the heart. Sometimes people come to the manor and say, what is this place? Bhakti Vedanta. Bhakti what? What is that? That's a long name. I say, are you a person of the head or the heart? They're like, head, heart, head. I say, Bhakti Vedanta Manor. Bhakti means the heart and Vedanta means the head. So this is the place where the head meets the heart. This is the place where all of that knowledge transforms into a movement of the heart. Bhakti Vedanta. So yes, realization should move the heart and awaken love. Then it's... I'll just say one last thing on that. Burijan Prabhu, he lives in Vrindavan. So one day he came out. You know in Vrindavan they have those sugarcane machines. So he's looking at this sugarcane machine and then he made a beautiful prayer. He said, may the hard, crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my offense-hardened heart, and may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love for Krishna. Powerful. May the hard, crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my offense-hardened heart, and may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love for Krishna. So yeah, we get realization from the school of hard knocks, material world, but may that realization give rise to love for Krishna. Yes, anyway, thank you. I'm just looking at I see hands. I don't know how do we do this, because previously it was quite a tight ship. It's like 5 minutes? Yeah, a few more minutes. I don't know who's got the mic. Mataji has the mic.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very profound class where you encapsulated the whole thing so nicely about death and the three most important things. And towards the end, we talked about love. My question is more about while practicing, pragmatic. We do get attached to the mode of goodness. So, in case of Bhisma Dev or Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was attached to the mode of goodness. He didn't want to lie, as Krishna was saying, but he was saying, no, I'm attached to, it's coming to my attachments. And similarly, Bhisma Dev, he took a pratigna. There was a time where his brother needed, there was no heir.
Yeah.
Dhritarashtra wouldn't have come into the picture if Bhisma Dev had stepped into the position and did what needed to be done. But he was attached to his order.
Vow.
That's also attachment, not knowing to do what is required for the hour, but you are attached to what you think is right, not understanding what Krishna is like. And as a consequence, look how the war has kind of completely gone in a different direction. Dhritarashtra wouldn't have come.
Yeah.
The war wouldn't have
Well, Rupa Goswami says, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha. So niyamagraha is, these things spoil devotional service. And niyamagraha is a very interesting one because it has a double meaning. Niyamagraha with a short A means to neglect the vows or to neglect the rules. But niyamagraha with a long A means you hold on to those things, not understanding the purpose of them and what they're meant to lead to. So Bhisma Dev, of course, whenever we talk about Bhisma Dev, we should understand there's an external thing going on and there's an internal thing going on. Internally, it's all Krishna's plan, because Krishna is moving the whole thing to arrange what he wants to arrange. But at least on the external platform, we can say Bhisma Dev was a victim of niyamagraha. Because there was a point at which he made a vow. Yes, you made a vow, but you can also break your vow. Didn't Krishna break his vow? Yes, Bhishma Dev said, tomorrow I will fight so fiercely that I will kill Arjun. And the only way Arjun will survive is if Krishna comes off the chariot and fights himself. I'll make Krishna break his vow. So Bhishma Dev was just fierce, and Arjun couldn't handle it. And then Krishna had to come off the chariot, isn't it? He picked up, even in this purport, Prabhupada talks about this is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier. Who's the wheel carrier? Krishna, because he came and he was about to take that wheel and launch it, and then Arjun said, no, it's okay. So yeah, sometimes you have to break your vow for a higher. One time Prabhupada was with the devotees at a life member's house, and they served out prasadam, and then the devotee was like, Prabhupada, there's onions in the prasadam. There's onions. Prabhupada said, no, there's not. No, there is. Like, it's here. I can see it. Prabhupada said, no, there's not. Just eat. But no onions and garlic. You took a vow. But Prabhupada had a higher vision that in that moment, it was more important to honor their devotion. It was more important to accept. Now, we have to be careful, of course. But we should not get attached to rules and regulations without understanding what the purpose of them is. Because ultimately Shastra says, what is that verse? Smartavya satatam vishnur vishmartavya najatu chit sarve vidhi nishedashyur etayor eva kinkara. Sarva vidhi, all the rules and regulations and vows in Shastra, kinkara, their servant of this higher principle, always remember Krishna and never forget him. So yeah, we need to keep it all in context. You can follow this rule so well that you miss the point. Yeah, there's one Brahmana, he used to do his Gayatri on the dot, on the Sandhyam. You do Gayatri, you're supposed to do it when the sun, right? Most of us, we do like 3 Gayatris at the end of the day, 10 o'clock at night to catch up. So he would do it on the dot every single day. And then one day he was sleeping, and the midday, the sun was rising to the apex. He was going to miss it. And then Kali came. And Kali said, wake up, it's time for your Gayatri. So he quickly woke up, oh my God, did his Gayatri. Then he finished his Gayatri and he came, he goes, you're Kali. You're supposed to be diverting people from religion. Why did you wake me up and tell me to do? Because and Kali said, because all these years you've been doing your Gayatri on time, that you think you're advanced and you think you're religious. And so I wanted you to stay in that illusion. Because maybe if you had missed your Gayatri, you would think, oh, I'm such a bad devotee, I actually have to become better, I have to become a devotee, and then maybe you would make some advancement. But because you were following this rule so well, you missed the point. So, yeah, we have to not just be following rules, we have to get to the essence of it all. So yeah, Bhishma Dev is an example of that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Well, we can...
Following on this,
okay.
when we are in our day-to-day life, how do we do that? So we have this dilemma as well, where we are following at the same time, where we are, and when you come in, somebody comes, oh, don't stand here.
Yeah, how much do you tell people, how much do you correct them, how much do you keep the order, There have been different approaches to temple management in terms of keeping order. Dua Mora is on the liberal side. We love you. There have been different regimes over the times, and we've taken different approaches. Everyone brings their own personality to it, isn't it? Some people run a tight ship, some people run an open ship. What to say? Is there a right and wrong answer? I don't know. We're all individuals. Some people are a little more like that, you know. They need the order. Some people are a little more free-flowing. Everyone shows their devotion in their own way. I think we have to just, in ourselves, be honest and just ask ourselves, like, when to be strict, when to be a little liberal. Yeah, you can go off the road on both sides. So, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to that. It's just very individual. You have to be very sincere. And you have to ask yourself, when you're being liberal, you have to ask yourself, am I being lazy? And when you're being strict, you have to ask yourself, am I missing the point? So don't be so strict that you miss the point. And don't be so liberal that you become a lazy, lackadaisical, complacent, inattentive. It's a mix of both, isn't it? Hare Krishna. Alright, I think there are more questions, but we call it a day here and then carry on tomorrow. Panuga. It's like a puppy face, you know. You want to say something quickly?
I was just going to... Hare Krishna Maharaj. There's a saying which says, no pain, no gain. So is it applicable in spiritual life? That pain is necessary for us to advance, or is it?
Yeah, what does Kunti Devi say? Vipada shantu tashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yadshad apunar bhavadarshanam. Kunti is saying, I need pain. Give it. Send it. Bring it on. More. 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 You don't need to make that prayer. You can if you want to, but be careful. Because she says, Bhavato darshanam yadshad. When that pain comes, darshan, we come, we see you, we feel you, we want to approach you. The reality is that most of us are not going to be able to develop that kind of intensity in our spiritual life off our own back. Most of us, if the weather's sunny, there's food on the table, Mahaprasadam, and look, everything's perfect, it's very unlikely that we're going to be chanting out with desperation. How many people are going to be able to do it off their own back? Are we going to become that intense just off our own back? And therefore Krishna has to. One way is Krishna comes in front of you and says, come to the spiritual world. So it's nice, but we're kind of looking around in different places as well. Krishna, coming in front of you, just take my hand. But then if we don't, because we're looking around everywhere, then Krishna will come from the back and he'll give you a kick. One way or the other you have to go. So which way you want to go? That would be nice. The first one would be nice. Therefore we're hearing Bhagavatam every day. We're chanting Hare Krishna and we're thinking, if through this I can become serious, maybe if I can learn through hearing. If not learn through hearing, maybe I can learn through seeing. But the reality is most of us don't learn through hearing and seeing. Therefore, you have to learn by experiencing. No pain, no gain. So therefore, get absorbed in the Bhagavatam. It's a nicer way to go back. Less painful.